Hello friends, how are you? I'm so glad you're with me today. My name is Sarah and I talk about books. And one of the things that I have done in the past is I have downloaded a bunch of books on my Kindle app. I don't have a Kindle device, but I do have the Kindle app both on my phone and on my laptop. And there are various places you can go and find Kindle freebies. And sometimes they're free only for a limited time. Sometimes they're free for Kindle, but you pay for them if you buy a paper copy. I'm not even sure where I found all of these. I don't know if they're still free. I will link to them in the description. For now, I thought I would read maybe the first 2 or 3 pages of, I think 5 will do. If it gets really, really long, I'll limit it to 2 or 3 and see whether I want to read these books or if I'm going to just delete them from my app because they're just too bad in the first few pages. So the first one I have, I'm going to just go down the list. I'm going to pick the first 5 that I haven't downloaded or read. And I have one that's a classic. I'm not going to do that. And I have some knitting books on here. I'm not going to read the first few pages of a craft book. The first one I have is called Epic by Chris Lowry. It is part of the Future Templar series. I do not know if it's the first book. I think it might be. Epic by Chris Lowry. The moon peeked over the edge of a monolith, pouring light between the skyscrapers and high-rises that jabbed at the skyline, illuminating the shadows in the quarter. Up this high, the dull roar of the mob was faint, like the insect hum must have been in summers of years past, until it became part of the ignored background. Wouldn't that have been in ancient times? I mean, insects have been around a really, really long time making noise in the summer. Anyway, the noise was buffered by the blast-proof plexi steel that coated the windows, allowing anyone in the room to look out over the pockmarked buildings etched in the ghost light of night. Nova stared at the scarred cityscape, noting the missing buildings with an absent-minded familiarity. What? Smiling at the similarity to the gaps in the toothy-mouthed man behind her. Okay, wait. She stared at the scarred cityscape, noting the missing buildings with an absent-minded familiarity. So she's familiar with the missing buildings or the gaps that they've left? Smiling at the similarity to the gaps in the toothy-mouthed man behind her. Okay, I think she means gaps in his mouth, but she literally said gaps in the man. So now I'm trying not to picture somebody with holes in him like a little Abner cartoon. Let's keep going. Commander, you know what your participation in this will be. It's only money, she started to say, and caught herself. She turned from the window and stalked to the oversized desk that dominated the far end of the large room. Money we need, the man with a gap-toothed smile and grease-slicked hair shot back at her. I don't know if you can have a gap-toothed smile and a toothy smile. I'm looking up toothy. Toothy definition. Having or showing large, numerous, or prominent teeth. That's what I thought. Like a grin that's just all teeth. You see people who smile and it's just all teeth, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't match with gap tooth. You're either toothy, your smile is either toothy or gap tooth or something else, but it's not both. Okay. He waited for her to sit in the plush vinyl chair. What? Plush is not vinyl. Plush is like velvet or velveteen or vinyl isn't plush. No, that's not a thing. And ease back, hoping for a look of comfort, some sign that she understood. Without them, he continued, the project faces extinction. You know how this affects your job. You don't need to remind me, she reminded him. The troops are my first concern, and the protection of every citizen in the Metroplex is at the top of our agenda every time we suit up. But you're trying to manipulate me, and that pisses me off. She glared at him over the smooth black surface of her desk. He tried to hold her stare, but turned away after a moment, wiping an oily sheen that sprung up on his brow. Yeah. Just ask me, she continued. I prefer the direct approach. Okay, that's 3 pages. I'll be honest. I don't see myself reading the rest of this. Plush and vinyl is not plush. Vinyl is smooth. It might be puffy, but that's hard to do with vinyl. But plush is not, no. Vinyl can't be plush. That's not a thing. So welcome to my very pedantic brain. Yeah, I'm not reading that one. Okay, next is The Line by C.J. Adrian. Let's see. And this, oh, there's a map at the beginning. The Line of His People. Oh, it's not The Line. It's The Line of His People. The official revised 2nd edition by C.J. Adrian. There's what looks like a Viking ship on the cover, and a guy with a helmet, with the nose guard, and mail coming down from it. So we've got maps of Western Europe, Spain, France, England, a little bit of Scandinavia up there, and then an island. All right, prologue, Island of Harius, spring 977 AD. Young Abriel walked hurriedly toward the beach, holding a small basket in one hand and a rolled-up net in the other in the twilight hours of the morning of his 7th birthday. No one else had awakened. He was too young to accompany the fishermen of the island out to sea, but he still yearned to make his mother proud by occasionally catching a few fish of his own from the small pier which harbored the fishermen's boats. He had to hurry before the tide receded too far for him to make a catch. The village was some distance from the beach, and he had to cross several salt marshes and venture up a small path through the thin pine woods to reach his favorite fishing spot. As he approached the foot of the dunes, he could hear the crashing of waves against the pier. The tide had not pulled back too far. Over the dune's crest, too far for what? Over the dune's crest, the first glimmers of light illuminated a thick overhang of clouds in shades of red and purple. A strong wind, typical on the island, blew sand in every direction. Okay, so it's a whirlwind? I don't know. The boy covered his eyes with his forearm as the small basket twirled in his grip and climbed his way to the top of the dune. Arriving at the top, he ran his hand across his face and through his long golden locks, of course. To wipe away the sand, he stood in awe at the scene before his eyes. The pier was engulfed in flames. A thick plume of charcoal gray smoke rolled across the beach, carried swiftly by the wind. In the thick of the smoke, Abriel could see shadowy figures dancing on the sands. These figures began to move quickly toward him. Fear paralyzed the boy. From the smoke emerged giants. Massive, foul, and covered in dull, rusted metal, these monsters from the ocean howled like animals with the wind. At the sight of the creatures, Abriel turned and ran. Without hesitation, he dropped his basket and bolted for the village to warn his family of their approaching danger. "Monsters! Monsters!" he shouted. "They've burned the pier! They've burned the boats!" One of the villagers sprang quickly from his hut, half naked and half asleep. He grasped the boy by the arm as he ran past. "Stop screaming! It isn't dawn yet! You'll wake everyone!" the man said through a whisper. He paused at the look of terror in the boy's face. "Abriel? Abriel, what has possessed you to run around in the dark? Where is your mother? Does she know what you're up to?" "I'm sorry, Uncle Irwin. I went fishing early, before the new tide. But the pier, I saw it. It's burned. And there were monsters howling. I swear by St. Filbert's tomb." Okay, so that's three. Well, three. It says I'm on page 2, but that was 3 clicks through to a new page. It might be interesting. I might read that. I have to roll my eyes a little when the characters have long, flowing golden locks, but I might read that. I might get halfway through it and say, I'm not reading the rest of this, but I'll try it. Okay, third is, what on earth? The Exactilius Prelude. Xactilias Prelude by R.J. Lawrence. Kind of looks like a horror, a thriller. Yes, it's the Exactilius Prelude, a thriller by R.J. Lawrence. Chapter 1. Have you noticed any insects behaving strangely? The man asked, his pen tapping the table in consistent rhythmic beats. Avoiding you, perhaps? No, Claire answered. Good, the man said. That's different from the other subjects. He scribbled something onto his clipboard. What about sleep? Have you slept yet? No. Interesting, he muttered. That's 72 hours. He scribbled again and set the clipboard aside. He removed his glasses and placed them flat on the table. And how do you feel? Claire glanced down at her hands. The leather straps had cut flawless red circles into her milky white wrists. Milky white wrists, seriously. I have a headache. Well, that's to be expected with the dehydration. She looked at the 2 guards standing by the door, their bodies impossibly large and still, as if they'd been cut all at once from 2 granite hunks. 2 granite hunks. Okay. The man rubbed his eyes and sighed. Let's hurry this along. I don't want to be here any longer than you do. I doubt that, Claire whispered to no one in particular. Fine then, let's proceed. He put his glasses back on and collected his clipboard. Any itching of the skin? No. What about sudden blindness? Visual impairments? Nothing. He pursed his lips and nodded approvingly. Are your fingernails growing? She looked at her hands. I have no idea. Fine, he said. She cocked her head to the side and assessed the man before her. He was bald, and his Adam's apple jutted forth like a misplaced elbow, its sharp point bobbing with every spoken word. She lowered her head and sucked the saliva in her mouth. Water. The man looked up and frowned. I'm afraid it will be a few hours more at least. Why? He frowned. Okay, so one of those visuals made me laugh. And the other one I thought was actually pretty good. I'll probably read that. I'll probably at least read more of it. I mean, I'm not promising I won't get to the middle of these books and say, oh, no. But I'll try them, Not epic. I'm not trying that one. Okay, number 4. Eclairs and Executions. This looks like a cozy mystery. It's got computer-generated art on the front, a woman in a maid costume holding up a platter of eclairs in one hand and a gun in the other. Eclairs and Executions, a terrified detective mystery by Carol Fawkes. A caustic critic gets his just desserts, and it isn't eclairs. Yeah, this definitely sounds like a cozy mystery. It is book 4, unfortunately, so in mystery series, I tend to find that going in order doesn't make that much difference. But if that's a big deal for you and you like this, you might want to find the first. And I'll see if I can find the first and link it as well. Chapter 1. What's wrong with working for Gino again, Claire? Claire seems to be a popular name. What's wrong with working for Gino again, Claire? My father, Frank DiNardo, popped a grape into his mouth as if to emphasize the question. I should have known this would be the topic when he invited me over to his house and my aunt happened to drop by. At least Aunt Lena, a fabulous baker who owns Cannolis, one of the best bakeries on Cleveland's west side, brought some of her frosted caramel brownies to ease into the discussion. I grabbed one before answering. At 5'2" and 108 pounds, I hardly needed the extra calories. Okay, no. I'm almost 5'2" and I would love to weigh 108 pounds again. I would love to. Guys, that's not okay. That's thin. At 102, at 5'2", you can easily get up to 125 or 130 before you need to start thinking about your calories and losing weight, etc. No, that's not okay. I'm not okay with that. I'm gonna keep going though. What I needed was a moment to think. My father was talking about Gino Francini, his second cousin and my former employer, who had left me his floundering private investigation business when he retired to Miami. Good thing, because a master's degree in mass communications wasn't the most promising career path. You know, a degree isn't a career path. A degree opens up a career path. But anyway, again, I'm being pedantic, but that's how my brain works. Aunt Lena, my late mother's sister, chimed in. Your father's right. It'll be safer and he won't have to worry about you. She cut one of the brownies in half and took a bite from the bigger piece. Granted, you won't see Brian as much, at least not professionally, she winked at me. I'll bet he comes around anyway. She wiped the corners of her mouth with her pinky. Then Ed can concentrate on his career. Ed is a full-time security guard and my part-time muscle. After one of my particularly nasty cases, he also became Aunt Lena's main squeeze. I ignored her comment about Brian, meaning Detective Brian Corrigan, Cleveland PD, my currently on-again relationship. You're both right, it would be safer. You know, though, I'd make even less money if that's possible. Aunt Lena clucked. Maybe you would have more money as an investigator, and for what? So we could use it for your funeral after some thug kills you? She cut the remaining brownie in half again and took a piece. My father swallowed another grape. Your aunt has a point. No parent wants his kid to die before him. Work at your aunt's place if you don't want to work for Gino. That gave me an idea, one I was not about to discuss. It needed time to develop, just as I did when all the other girls my age looked like women and I still had the figure of a cucumber. What? Oh, that's just gross. You're comparing your seed of an idea to a prepubescent child who needs to fill out and develop curves. No. Okay, no. I'm out. I'm not reading this one. Not reading that. Okay, number 5. Let's see if we can find another winner. Cranberry Bluff by Deborah Garner. I don't know. This looks like it could be... Oh, it looks like another cozy mystery. Cranberry Bluff, A Tale of Scones and Scoundrels by Deborah Garner. Don't come at me about pronouncing scones because I don't care. Okay. Mary Elliott plucked a cranberry jelly bean from a crystal bowl in the parlor and looked out the front window. Fog hovered above the town, smothering shingled rooftops and beheading water towers. That's a fun mental image. Okay, I like this so far. It was a typical morning along the Northern California coast, just as subdued as the day would be. Nothing ever happened in Cranberry Cove. I think something's gonna happen. If things hadn't turned out so badly, she would have stayed in Florida. The humidity had been a drawback. Yeah, I've been in Florida, I know. But at least most days guaranteed sunshine. Yep, that's what I love about Florida. Sun always shines. Okay, still, she had welcomed the chance to take over Cranberry Cottage bed and breakfast. Not that she was glad to see Aunt Maggie pass away, but she had inherited the quaint business at the perfect time. Staying in Tallahassee had felt too dangerous. Okay, What's wrong with Tallahassee? I mean, it's just a city. Okay, we'll see. She stopped her train of thought before memories began to kickstart her anxiety. Okay, so it's not Tallahassee per se, it's what happened to her in Tallahassee. Turning away from the window, she headed for the hall closet. Daily tasks calmed her down. There were plenty of chores to tackle too, with 5 guests booked for that night. 1 couple and 3 singles. 4 of the inn's 8 rooms needed to be ready by mid-afternoon. And Maggie had taken reservations online, finding it easier than handling phone calls. Molly had changed that. Bookings could only be made by phone now. Why? Okay. Molly checked the answering machine several times a day, selectively returning calls. She always had good instincts. The arriving guests had all been clear of red flags. What is she? I don't think this is bad writing, by the way. All these questions I'm popping in here, I'm interjecting. I don't think that they are indicative of bad writing. I think they're the author setting up the story and trying to pull the reader in and make them interested. So these aren't criticisms. The Jensens, coming in from Boston, were a honeymoon couple. Molly smiled, remembering the excitement in the young bride's voice when she made the reservation. Their plans involved flying into San Francisco and taking a leisurely drive up the coast, stopping along the way in small towns and ending up in Seattle. The newlyweds would stay in the cottage suite, an elegant accommodation set in a renovated barn behind the main house. The antique 4-poster bed, river rock fireplace, and private hot tub on the suite's enclosed patio were perfect for a romantic stay. Molly made a mental note to put a vase of long-stemmed roses in the room, as well as imported chocolates on each pillow. Not nearly as luxurious or spacious, but equally appropriate, the river room would be ideal for Mr. Miller, a salesman from Bakersfield. He'd requested an accommodation with a desk and good lighting. That would cover his needs for writing up orders for the local business's office supplies. The hunter green decor and cherrywood furniture suited a single man, as did the old fishing equipment displayed on the walls. The banker's lamp on the desk cast a bright light. Charlie Miller's voice had been clear and precise. The room would be a good match. It doesn't sound like it will be my favorite book ever, but it sounds readable, so I will probably go back and read the rest of this one. So out of 5, one of them I'm not going to read because I feel the writing is bad. One of them I'm not going to read because, gross. Fat shaming, fat phobia, fat shaming, and talking, no, yuck, no. The other 3, I think the Exactilius Prelude had the best opening. Now, obviously I've only read the first few pages, so I don't know what the rest of the book will be like, but I think it had probably the best written opening scene, so I'm probably most interested in that. I think the other 2, The Line of His People and Cranberry Bluff, both sound interesting enough. I will probably go back and read them. So tell me what you think. Do you have the same opinions? Are you less pedantic than I am and willing to read things even if the grammar's a little off or the metaphors are weird or something is described as 2 conflicting things? I am pedantic. I know that. I have a very pedantic brain and I try not to unleash it on other people. So, you know, I try not to correct people's grammar or spelling online, but when I'm reading a published book, it can really grind me to a halt and keep me from enjoying the story for things to be described in weird ways like that. My brain just snags on them and I can't keep going and enjoy it. Tell me what you think. Do you have suggestions for things you think I should read? If you like this video, please hit like, share it with someone you think would be interested, subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content. If you want to subscribe and actually see every everything I post, hit the little bell icon next to the subscribe button, and that way you don't miss things that I post. That works for all YouTube channels. I think I've heard some talk about the notifications being a little off lately, so it's supposed to work. If they get it fixed and it's not messed up, then it will work. And you guys have a really, really good day. Thank you so much. Bye.